lover, coming at you from the privacy, the safety, and the sanctuary of my beloved first cousin Laurie's estate. So, at the time of this recording, it is Sunday, February 11th, 2024. So, how's everybody doing out there, huh? What's up? Well, I tell you what, this is definitely a new era upon us, and we had the Chinese New Year yesterday, and so now we step into the brand new age of Aquarius, whatever that means, right? Well, if you'd been following my story, I am a targeted individual. I'm not going to recap it this time. But suffice enough to say, in my research and in my ponderings, as related to me in particular in my timeline, I've come to understand how the esoteric arts play into the targeting of an individual. As I've mentioned before, the targeting of the individual is a satanic sacrifice circuit that has a trifecta, which is the sacrifice of the target esoterically and the value you get along the way of looshing them and harvesting the energy, and then the actual let's get a nice little sudden payout with money. So before you go to wipe out your target, you want to make sure that you actually are taking out a hefty, a handsome life insurance policy on them, because whenever they go apoptigma berserk and lice them, LYSE, themselves from the inside out, which is, they seppuku or opt out through the suicide option because of all of the harassment that this target had to endure, sink or swim. But before they do that, you guys want to make sure that you got that hefty life insurance there, so you can get your sudden wealth payouts when they kick the bucket. And then, waste not, want not, right? So you're going to make sure that you procure any liquidated assets that the target may have, which is their innards, their organs. It's a demonic infestation of satanic ritualistic practices. I mean, what a wonderful way to call out the populace on the down low, right? Be as hideous as you want about it. But in my timeline, I was shown about a year ago the presence of the black arts being a viable existence, but I lacked the interpretation till like a year later, which substantiated subjectively for me the validity of the black arts and how it plays out, in which I will share another time. But this particular video, I want to talk about how the targeting of the individual it's not done on a whim or impulse. It's done very methodically, very mechanistically it's a well-oiled machine that's been around for about 25 going on 30 years. This is a covert war of man against man, citizen against citizen, because you got a lot of duped people, or maybe they're not so duped and they really like the money is my God and God is my money. I want all things shiny. Yeah, all the nice, shiny, fancy things that you can get that money could bring into your life, right? Never mind altruism. Never mind the respect and value for human life. Never mind the checks and balances that our country had already in place, that our forefathers died for, that all of these participants have been forsaking all over the face of the earth. Gaia is not happy with you guys. And the forefathers, the patriots, They're rolling over in their graves. Nonetheless, this systematic, well-oiled machine, you guys can research. I mean, look up Zetzersung, look up Stasi, look up concentration camp, look up Project Paperclip, look up Nuremberg trials, look up Dr. Mengele. Dr. Mengele is the godfather of this abomination creation here in the United States that is known as targeting of the individual, propagated through Zetzersung tactics that we come to know as gang stalking. So one of the tactics that this machine does is basically pull intel on the person for about 3 to 4 years before they even start to deploy any of the psychological mind fuckery games. Because these are crimes against humanity, people. And if that particular statement falls short with you, that's because you have fallen short within the very core fabric of your existence. Because that means that's a good gauge for you to realize, to wake up to how far removed you are from your own empathy gene, if you have any left. I mean, of course, if you're not a clone, because does a clone know it's a clone? Oh, I've seen the awakening. They don't like it. I've seen that. Talk for another time. But what this practice does is that before they, actually pull intel on you, they study you. They already have a roadmap on how to cause a person to implode, to cause them to commit suicide. So they just take a template and just run it over your life as if you were fucking cattle. And then the wealthy 1%, they get their rocks off to making bets on people, like trading places. That was brought to my attention by the reincarnate of Kuan Yin on the YouTube channel. I have no cut cards to roll. Much respect to you, Miss Kuan Yin. You've been quite the mentor and teacher for me. I love you. So, but nonetheless, the target is worked over before they're actually worked over. One of the things being that the perpetrators of this gang stalking machine, of this targeting machine, which is spearheaded through FEMA and made happen hands-on by the private surveillance companies known as InfraGard and Citizen Corps. Look it up on targetedjustice.com. Let your research begin there. If you even have integrity to yourself to research anything instead of allow others to tell you what to think, what to feel, and what to believe, because then that makes you a lemming. We want to graduate you from lemon status to critical independent status, critical independent thinker status, if you're not there already. Because everything is, a progress in learning. So I'm here to help wake up people to get in touch with their own integrity and to get in touch with hitting reset and getting their lives back on track, because everybody participating in this godforsaken Auschwitz 2.0, this wireless, fenceless, touchless concentration camp, you all are in eternal damnation, babies. If you die, all of a sudden, you don't get to wake up in the land of milk and honey. You bought your one-way ticket into the lowest vibratory frequency throughout the entire cosmos that Christians might term hell. So, including your children, you have martyred them. You have made them props. You have tooled them and exploited them for your own profit and gain, and taught them how to be psychos on the down low to get their way. Which means they are in eternal damnation themselves because you dragged them there as parents. Digress. So one of the things that this abomination creation of targeting induces is they'll pick out your family around you first to separate you from any type of help. Doesn't have to be financial help. It could be help of emotional support, help of psychosocial well-being, which for most might be their family. So in my case, as I had been in ponder of my sojourners, I'm a philosopher sojourner in my own story. And so what I've come to learn is that I have reason to believe that my parents, John Elijah Landon and Antonia Canete Landon, had each been a victim of murder propagated through death magic. And so while that's more like, oh my God, I can't believe she said that. That's fine. You're entitled to that. And as we progress as a species and have been brought into our esoteric layer of existence, it's a good place to start, go ahead. That means your critical independent thinking is in play. And then your critical independent thinking will help your discernment peel back the layers and bring the reality as you see it, But just because I might be like, oh my God, they're so stupid. They don't want to see the holistic picture of our existence beyond the 3D. I would never be like that. But I would ask for the same respect. Just because my internal values differ from yours, if I know how to maintain ethics at all costs and unwavering integrity, that should be the line in the sand that we speak of. So, for everybody participating in this Auschwitz 2.0, the treason circuit of the targeting of the individual, known as gang stalking, y'all are throwed. Because you have thrown away your integrity and made yourself prostitutes with your clothes on. Because who's going to want to marry somebody who has a price to sell out their integrity? I sure as hell wouldn't want that. And I sure as hell would not want any of my children consorting with people like that. Because it's just a matter of time before they try to sell each other out down the river. Nonetheless, the reason why I bring up my mother and father is because, number one of the hallmarks that I'm learning when it comes to death magic is that a lot of times science will not be able to come up with a viable etiology, a root origin of where the pathology began, where the sickness began. It becomes more like this, what happened here? Dude, I don't know what you got into, but it is beyond my scope of practice of what we know throughout the entire medicinal world as we have come to be able to deploy any sense of understanding. The best I can do is treat the signs and symptoms, never mind the etiology, okay? Basically. And so, whenever my father had passed away, it was under mysterious circumstance. My niece had related to me because my my half-sister at the time, Colleen Landon, had barred me and my mother and my full-blooded biological sister from visiting my father in the hospital on his deathbed. And then so I'm like, well, where are his children? Okay, she's like, I have power of attorney. And this power of attorney says, fuck you. You're not allowed in here, miscreant. I'm like, oh, man. I know that because me and my big sister, it was my opinion, she was a hardcore narcissist and would manipulate me just to get her way, even though we had the same interest. So after some lies on me that she never had amended, I just detached. I'm like, okay, I'm dealing with a pathological liar here. And what's the point in trying to come to any resolution when you're dealing with a liar who will lie to say anything? The best you can do is just let go and love. And that's what I did. And apparently, she still had it out for me to the point to where she didn't even want me and my mama to see my daddy on his deathbed. And then so, But behind the scenes, and we did manage to get to see him, without any communication. I had approached the nursing station and asked for everybody's names and their titles, who was like, you can't go in there because power of attorney said. I was like, okay, that's fine, because, dude, that's fine. Let me get your names, because when you get everybody's names, everybody tends to behave a bit more ethically in the sandbox. So when I did that, then I had a CEO, what they told me was the CEO of the hospital, I don't know, approach me and say, okay, here, this is what we'll do. We'll let you see him, but you cannot say anything. And we were just like, okay, fine. If that's what it is, then that's what it is. And so we got to peer at my dad from the threshold of the doorway while he was on ventilation, And so his death, I don't remember what his death certificate said, but he was noted for his cause of death leading up to his death was MODS, M-O-D-S, multiple organ dysfunction syndrome, where each of the system of organs begin to shut down. I understand that's a very painful process. And then what happened here? Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Makeup! I fixed my aesthetic presentation. And then but basically that was MODS. And whenever he had passed away, we weren't allowed to, be there because my half-sister, was belligerent with power of attorney. So we just, held a vigil in the waiting room in the lobby of that particular nursing unit. And then but fast forward years later, my niece who was there had said that the CDC intervened and shut down half of the ICU because they didn't know what the etiology of my father's sickness was. And he had been overseas in the Philippines. And then he traveled back to the United States because he was really sick. I mean, he was advised not to travel, but, he did anyway. So until the CDC was comfortable, I guess they shut down half of the ICU to help, prevent any nosocomial infections that may have arose from my father's presentation in the ICU. And then that's what's going on here with the etiology. Okay, fine. And then whenever my mother passed away, it was because of liver cancer. But the thing about my mom is that, she was very religious in upkeep of her physical maintenance. It's like whatever the doctor said she did. For example, as evidenced by, my mom was diagnosed with osteoporosis, and then she was prescribed Fosamax. So if any of you guys are familiar with Fosamax, this particular medication was very high maintenance. You had to take it at a certain time in the morning, and then once you took the medication for about 30 minutes, you couldn't sit down or lay down. You had to be active. So my mom would do her exercises in the morning religiously. And so it got to the point to where the osteoporosis was obsolete, and therefore my mom didn't have to take the Fosamax anymore. And every time my mom, she always, did her blood sugar, and with, the blood sugar testings, and to the point to where she involved the family and would ask us, so what do you think it is? And so she taught us, we all learned about, how drinking water impacts on what you eat and the times. And that really serviced me in my career as a paramedic. It was a lot of fun and helpful. So that's how involved my mother had been in her own healthcare. So with all of her diagnostic testings and screenings, nothing came up that said, hey, we might have a problem here. And so it really surprised us that when we found out she had the cancer, What happened was my mom had a slip and fall, and whenever she went to the emergency room and they had done the x-ray, that's when they found the mass. And in her abdominal cavity. And so what happened after that was then she was diagnosed with having cancer, but it was unstageable. That's what the nurse or whoever it was, the healthcare professional, had told me. And it was unstageable. And so there's stage 1 through 4, and stage 4 would have been 4 centimeters. It was unstageable to the point of when the tumor was found for my mother, the cancer, it was 12 centimeters. So it's like, again, medical mystery. How could this cancer be so freaking gargantuan and escape all of the testing that my mom had done on the regular? So fast forward some years later, I have my index of suspicion for it to be secondary to death magic practices, which is energy manipulation in the ethers. So when you get these diagnosis where the medical world is like, bitch, we don't know what the fuck. This is beyond my scope of practice. So now here's the deal. Additionally, my baby sister at the age of 19 was found with a rope around her neck. They termed it died to, asphyxiation secondary to strangulation. And so I had a dream and I asked my sister, I said, what happened? And she told me in her dreams, verbatim, small people were playing me and then I was tagged. So here we go. I have 3 family members that I am going to subjectively allege that were picked off by satanic practitioners, to dismantle my family. And then but here is the linchpin, the coup de grace, if you will. If there had been any life insurance policies taken out on each of these family members, beyond the scope of my knowledge, that would tend to lend the credibility that these people's deaths have been premeditated. And I will allege that the premeditation was handled through the act of spell work, death magic practices, with the exception of my sister, because the accounts procured from the neighborhood at the time of her passing, there were 2 masculines sighted in the driveway. And where my sister had started mowing the lawn that day, a masculine finished it, but she was found with the rope around her neck. So I just kind of feel Judge Edie Conley was there for that day, and she spoke to me. And so she asked me, do I think my sister was placed there? And so I said, I don't know, because she wasn't feeling, she had no sense of disposition that would lend toward clinical depression at that time, So, but those are my 3 family members. This is my objective data, but I'm going to ask any ethical feds out there working my case, police, whatever, whoever. None of you guys have come to bridge the ambiguity with my case. So I don't know what's going on there, but I want to say that I'm very disdainful of it. I'm not going to sugarcoat that, because it really looks like you guys are procuring your own snuff films and playing both sides of defense. I could be wrong. If I am, I would be more than heartful in offering a public apology. I might even shine your shoes if you want, for reals. But nonetheless, I'm going to allege that if Barbara Regali or Tim Regali had been a beneficiary of either my parents upon their passing, that would substantiate the linchpin in the monkey business of premeditated murder. Because we're bridging the esoteric here. But They had no business. Nobody had any business putting a life insurance policy on either of my 3 family members, John Elijah Landon, AntoniA Canete Landon, and Antonieta Divina Canete Landon. But I'll put their names and birthdays attached to this video. So let's take a good look at that, because that database, what database of life insurance beneficiaries, of life insurance policies on people, that needs to be public at all times. We're in only day and age. Everybody needs to have the fingerprints on, the Rolodex over there, and our DNA's on the Rolodex. Because Barbara Regali, Tim Regali, Marcella Maria Comiskey have been committing identity fraud and identity theft with my name, Patricia Ann Landon Regali. And as far as I know, there possibly could be a death certificate issued on me. And there possibly could be a fraudulent marriage placed with my name. And it might be Dick Tracy #1. So, but I, gathered my information through the lovely conduits on YouTube, plugging my own timeline in where I resonate with the collective that they tap into. So, but these are my findings and these are my allegations. But as it is, I'm going to appeal to the public servants here. You have a public responsibility to serve the public. And from one public servant to another, I'm like, were you out there whenever COVID was big and bad out in the public? I served during that. Take a look at my work history. Well, not even so much my work history as my clockable hours, and gather your data from that. My heart and soul was in that while I was being tormented and abused and Zetzersung, while people were going in and out of my house, vandalizing it. I'm just going to just put a pin in it there for now, and I'll expand on that in another video. But maybe you guys can kick it up for a public servant that served selflessly while my family was being fractured. While my family was being abused by the Zetzersung as well, with the directed energy weapons that they came at me with. Because I'm sure I wasn't the only one being hit with them. And with that illegal Truman Show that had been happening at 15966 Oak Mountain Drive in Houston, Texas, 77095, where I was renting my home. My home that I was renting from did not begin with First Key Homes, but it was bought out by First Key Homes, which I allege had given the permission for the illegal surveillance without even telling me. So now here's the deal. What is the repercussions for all of the slander, character defamation that I have had to endure? Because this blackballing of barring people from employment, that is an abomination of existence itself. So a citizen that is deprived of their basic human rights and deprived of their basic justice won't be able to even feed themselves. I'm not the first one that has had to endure all of this energy. I am one of the few that has survived everything I have and still look as fucking fabulous as I do now. So maybe somebody out there can have a heart for an ethical woman whose integrity could never be bought and sold or compromised, even if somebody had one foot on the banana peel and the other one in the grave. On my cot, on my gurney, on my stretcher, I still give you the same care I would deliver my own mother. I'm not about big bread. But we'll talk about Big Bread another time in another video. But kick it up for her sister, would you? Thank you for watching. Please be ethical and research the information I gave you, because while you can't, put a weapon that was used in the crime and submit it to the courts, such as a lead pipe, that was done in the living room by Miss Scarlett. What you can do is look up the database of who have been beneficiaries to life insurance policies that had no business putting out life insurance policies on people. So I allege that would be Barbara Regali and Tim Regali et al. Marcella Maria Comiskey. I don't think she would have had anything to do with that. But bitch, you just, you guys broke bread at the same goddamn supper table that Sodom and Gomorrah, your team Judas there, picked off your own parents. How do you like that? And if you are sick, just know you will be dead soon. That is your crime. That is the wages of sin you earned. And you will either be dead before you get into prison, or you will die in prison. So you better get your spiritual papers in order and start telling the truth to your kids already. Give them the integrity of the truth while you're still alive, honey. And as far as the little one, I'd still be happy to help raise him, because I'm ethical, and I would never put shit stains on your character that weren't there. I know how to teach with edification. I know how to edify. EDIFY. Look it up. But my game is to break the generational curses and not propagate them. And to teach others it's okay to mess up. None of us are perfect. But it's not okay to not make amends. The true superhero is the prodigal son, the prodigal daughter, the prodigal family that returns and rededicates their lives to serving the light. Just know I don't hate any of you guys. I'm holding the light and candle for y'all to come home already, goddammit. But only the truth shall set you free. And you're going to have to go public with your apologies. Don't even bother apologizing face to face with your targets. What you did in secret must be amended in the public, so others can learn, so you can be the light, so you can be the beacon for others to have the brave courage to come forward and speak the truth. There have been others before you. You can look at targetedjustice.com. I'm not going to teach it to you right now. You can lead a horse to information and wisdom, but you can't make him process it. You'd have to go out and get it for now. But thank you for listening. I have more intel.